Hey, Marlins fans, welcome to a new edition of Big Fish Small Pod for Wednesday, July 17th, here on the Fish on First podcast channel, presented by MPT College Consulting. I'm Ely Sussman, right here. Happy All-Star break. Hope everybody's resting up for a few days. Wanted to circle back to a significant trade that happened right before the break. One that didn't involve the Marlins, otherwise you obviously would have heard about it here. But it does have, to me, a fairly direct effect on the Marlins heading up to this deadline, and specifically the value of AJ Puk. The trade I'm referring to was on Saturday, the one between the Nationals and the Royals right before the MLB draft, sending Hunter Harvey, very solid right-hander who's been in the Nats bullpen a handful of years, to Kansas City for third base prospects Caden Wallace and a competitive balance round draft pick, which turned out to be the number 39 overall pick in this draft. By most estimations, Wallace was maybe the bigger piece going back in return, but fairly close second, that draft pick as well. Those are two significant assets. Wallace, a consensus top 10 prospect in the Royals organization, and that draft pick turning into what a really comparable prospect as well, all in exchange for Hunter Harvey, a year and a half remaining of club control. The hard-throwing right-hander has some closing experience, more of a seventh, eighth inning guy in most contexts as well. And to this point, this would be the most substantial trade involving a reliever. Obviously relevant to the Marlins because the Marlins have a lot of relief pitching trade assets available. And in the aftermath of this deal, I got some questions about what this meant for Tanner Scott's value, because we know that Tanner is going to get traded. He's a pending free agent, and his performance speaks for itself. Marlins are certainly going to get whatever they can rather than to let him leave in free agency for nothing. To me, I think this is a lot more applicable to AJ Puk, and so I'm going to show you why. Because on the surface, Hunter Harvey is having a better couple seasons, and including in 2024. But keep in mind that Puk last year started the year as the Marlins closer, spent most of the year in their pen one way or another. And then this year began the season in the rotation. That went horribly for a few starts, went on the IL for a few weeks, came back in mid-May. And since then, he's been really great as a reliever. So what I did through Fangraphs is I looked back since the start of last season, 2023, and just filtered out the starts that Puk has made. Because if you were still watching AJ Puk at the start of this year, it was clear he was just a different guy in the rotation. His stuff was completely different. His pitch usage was different and ineffective. And I don't think that is going to hinder his value I don't think it should affect his value one way or another. So this year, his overall stats are underwhelming, but a lot of it is because he pissed the bed in those four starts that he made for the Marlins. It's a 4.73 ERA overall. It's a FIP right around 4. It's really unremarkable. And it's a walk rate that is a lot higher than usual. But if you just focus on the relief appearances the last two seasons, and for those watching on YouTube can see this, the stats between Harvey and Puk as a reliever since the start of 2023 are freakishly identical. It's a 3.41 ERA and 3.23 FIP for Harvey. It's a 3.47 ERA and a 3.32 FIP for Puk. Just hundredths of a run's difference in those major categories. In terms of strikeouts, Puk is a little bit ahead, and in terms of allowing walks, essentially identical. 2 walks per 9 for both of them. That's what stood out about Puk last year, and that's what has been the big difference since going back to the pen this year. He has really awesome control that you don't usually see from high leverage guys. Puk is 29 years old. Harvey is 29 years old. Puk is earning a little less than $2 million this year. Hunter Harvey is earning a little bit more than $2 million this year. Both of them get ground balls a little bit above the league average, and both of them do have some closing experience. As I mentioned with Puk, that was all that came for the first half of last year. He picked up 1 save this year when Tanner Scott was unavailable. Also, importantly, Puk is, if you want to go into what have you done for me lately, he is pitching the best baseball of his career lately, and it may have gone under the radar. He has had 5 consecutive hitless appearances in July for Puk. He's not allowed an earned run in exactly a month since June 17th. I'm talking here on July 17th. And he's only walked 2 batters during that entire month-long stretch as well. He's been hot. He's peaking at the right time, and the stuff kind of backs it up. His fastball looks explosive. It's the highest velocity we've seen from him as a Marlin, where he's really consistently hitting 98 or 99 in his outings when he needs it and locating that pitch really well. And we already know that Puk has a great sweeper. That was kind of the key to his success for much of last year with the Marlins. So that's a comparison that maybe not a lot of other people are making because you have to filter out the starts, and I feel that that was appropriate in this case. Harvey is under control the rest of this year and all of next year, which explains the return that they were able to get for him. Puk is under control the rest of this year and next year and 2026 as well. It's an extra year of club control. So how much that matters? I think it definitely does matter. Maybe not as much as you might assume for an ordinary player, because relievers are so fickle. So it's $2 million this year for Puk. It's probably going to be $3.5 or $4 million salary for 2025. And that's going to go up again, you would think, in 2026. He actually has to perform fairly well. The injury history is worth noting. Harvey has been on the IL both in 2023 and 2022. Puk has been on the IL essentially every year of his career with the exception of 2022. The year before he got traded over to the Marlins, he was fine, but he missed a little bit of time last year. He missed a little bit of time this year as well with Puk. And I'm sure you know he had Tommy John surgery early in his career. There's a bit of a shelf life to that ligament. You don't know if that may blow out at some point during his remaining team control years. So yeah, not going to bring back a franchise changing talent right here, but just to reiterate like what this trade return is, Caden Wallace, if you plugged him into the Marlins system right now, even following the draft, yeah, that's a top 10 prospect in the Marlins system right there. With the competitive balance round pick, not that far behind. So it's too late to replicate this trade. You can't trade draft picks right after they've been traded in that case. But still, I think it's reasonable to assume a very similar, if not a slightly better return than what the Nats ended up getting in a similar setup, sending a reliever to a contending team that really needs it. And with Puk, the other thing in his favor, the other factor worth noting is his handedness. He is a left-handed pitcher, Harvey a right-hander, and we see it over and over again that the scarcity of lefties does help out their value. So I think you just look at all the potential tiebreakers here between Harvey and Puk value-wise, and all of them lean towards Puk right here. The only thing is they're holding on to him a little bit longer, and I don't know. I doubt the Royals would be willing to sacrifice more prospect talent in the here and now to add another bullpen arm. I think the Royals are likely cross them off the list as a team that you'd be talking about a relief deal with. There's still a lot of other contenders out there. Really should not be any shortage of teams that are looking for a high leverage guy, left-hander who is pitching as well as he ever has right now for Puk. And I'm on the record as saying that the starting rotation experiment was worthwhile. Went horribly wrong. It was worth a shot, especially considering where the Marlins were rotation depth-wise entering the regular season. And, credit to Puk for bouncing back and recovering when things went poorly. He was able to reset and now pitch the way that he has. It's going under the radar just because of how those starts really imploded so many of his stats across the board. I think the teams themselves can look past that in the same way. If I can do it, then they can certainly do it and see how well that Puk is performing right here. No urgency to trade Puk because of the 2.5 years remaining of club control. If you're being realistic as the Marlins, though, is this team going to be a contending team within the next 2.5 years? And if there's any question about that, and I think there is very serious doubt about that, then this might be selling about as high as you ever can on Puk. So while I'm unclear as to whether he'll actually go, has my recommendation. And as long as the Marlins set the Harvey trade as their bar, I think they should be able to clear that bar for what they get in return for Puk at the deadline. Whatever, and if they do come anywhere close to that, that would exceed what they gave up in the first place to get him. The way that JJ Bleday was valued at the time in early 2023 is less than the trade value that the Nats got in exchange for Wallace and the competitive balance round pick right there. So they would come out ahead in the aggregate if, assuming things go smoothly for Puk, his first few outings coming out of the All-Star break. Only 13 days and counting until the deadline. Plenty of coverage coming on all things Marlins here on Fish on First. So thanks for sticking with us. This has been Ely Sussman here on the Fish on First podcast, presented by MPT College Consulting. Check them out, mptcollegeconsulting.com. Enjoy the rest of the break, and we'll have a whole lot more as leading up to this also important deadline on July 30th. Go Fish.